Touchdown Tampa Bay. You're listening to the PewterCast.
Welcome to the PewterCast. I am Brent Allen, your host, joined as always by my good friend, Ren. Boy, am I glad to see you, Daxed. Ren, welcome to Friday night. Welcome to Buc'In the News. And like I said, I'm really glad to see you, my friend.
Spending a week on the road with the family, starting to grate the nerves.
It's you know, I would be
Car
okay
rides in hotel rooms or not.
Yeah,
not much as romantic as they are in the movies.
Yeah, I'd pretty much be okay if my kids just didn't look at each other for the rest of this trip. So for anyone out there, I am actually not in my normal location. For anyone who is watching the video of this live, which by the way, you can watch this live stream as we record it on YouTube on Friday nights, somewhere in the 7 to 10, 11 o'clock range, depending on when I can get the kids in bed, honestly. But
we are the cable guys of Friday Night Podcast.
There you go. I like it. The cable guys of yeah, that's good. I like that. But I'm on the road this week, and so I have this lovely curtain that is I don't even know what you call it.
Is that Buccaneers themed?
No,
it looks like it could be a day of the
in one place.
It could be the Day of the Dead Buccaneer themed tapestry.
Yeah. It is this weird. I can't, you guys just need to go to the video and check it out. It is just something else. But like I said, Ren, I am glad for at least the next hour to be able to sit down, hang out with you, talk some Buccaneers football, and you know, we talk about sports being that escape, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is truly it for me this particular week. So really, really glad to be here. I want to take a moment and say
game.
I don't know. You keep telling me that you can do it through the app, and I'm pretty sure that I can set up a VPN to be local in Tampa, and so I may be able to watch it. Right. It just depends if I can do it, like if I can convince my wife to drive while I'm watching the game, or depending on how that works, because we will be driving all day Sunday. And yeah, I don't know. We'll find that out and see exactly how that works. But as some of you may be keen out there going, well, what does that mean for the PewterCast Live, the post game call-in show?
As am I, actually.
Never fear, there is a plan, and if it all goes according to plan, the only thing you won't miss is me, or the only thing you're going to miss is me in that particular show.
The first time.
Oh, the only thing you won't miss is me. Yeah, you guys will love me, miss everybody else. Anyway, I want to say hello though to everybody who is joining us live at youtube.com. Everyone who's joining us live on Facebook, everyone who's joining us live on Periscope, on Twitter, or even at our website, thepewtercast.live. Hello to all of you guys. And to everybody who's listening to the podcast feed later, hi to the thousands of you there as well. This is our Buc'In the News show. This is the show where we kind of basically wait till all the storylines for the week have wrapped up. Rather than talking about something before the story is done, we wait to this point. And we're going to talk about all the headlines. Maybe not all. We're just talking about the ones that stood out to us. The headlines that jumped out to us. We'll talk about the roster moves the team has made. We'll talk about the injury report as it relates to the game coming up here against the Chargers. We'll talk about what we're looking for coming up in this game. We'll talk about predictive MVPs, all that kind of stuff. So it should be a great show on tap. And listen, you guys want to talk over in the chat room? You guys keep doing that. There's no phone calls for these shows. But Ren, we are not here by ourselves.
No, per tradition.
Per new tradition, we are bringing in some of our friends in the Bucs fringe media world. The guy we have this week is, I guess we should say retired is the word he uses. But he was one of the first real guys to hit YouTube super hard. And you guys may know him out there. He goes by the handle The Play Reaction. Corey is joining us here to talk Buccaneers football. Corey, welcome back live from your closet. So glad to have you back on the show, my friend.
Hey guys, thanks for having me back on. I am happy to be here. Ren, by the way, I'm wearing another man's name on my back in honor of you.
Who is it? Mike Evans.
Mike
I see.
Evans.
I
Yeah,
see.
and also in honor of Brent. Here, I have to stand up because I'm at the floor of my closet. I have my Deathly Hallows shirt underneath for Brent.
I like it. I
This
like
is just
it.
for you
I like
guys.
Fandom's crossing over. The only thing I need you to have now is like a Star Trek hat, and you're good to go, man.
Yeah, that one I don't get the trifecta there. Not really
It's
a
okay.
Trekkie. I enjoy it, just not a Trekkie. So
Yeah, I understand. I understand. And there is a podcast for people like yourself. Anyway, not what we're here to do.
I have a question. You know, I saw Corey before we went live, and then we drop him out, and then we bring him in and introduce him. Hello, and I was kind of like, that's kind of a
pop in magically as this whole thing goes live.
And then I see his background, and I'm like, okay, that's okay, whatever. He doesn't podcast or YouTube anymore. I would give it a D+.
Yeah.
And then he
very
said,
little effort.
And then he says, well, you're sitting on the floor of your closet. Can you please explain what's going on here?
Yeah, I'm hiding from my family.
Are you on the road too?
Yeah. No, instead of hanging a bedspread behind me, I hung a Bucs flag, which was given to me by you, Ren. So the closet is really the only place I can do this from because we have an office, but that's where we crate the dog. And I have an 8-week-old daughter who is in another part of the house that is adjacent to the other room I could use, and I would be too loud for her. So I am tucked away in my closet, and the only person I'm annoying is my wife.
All right. Is she in there too?
Well, hi.
She's not in the closet, but she is just right outside the door. Probably her ear pressed against the door.
All right.
I assume. I don't know.
Well, thank you for going through great lengths of for doing this for us.
Yes, anything for you guys for your over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Come on, hey, we're at 1,100 right now. So
nice.
Everybody keep going. Keep it going. It's been fun over this last week watching those numbers grow. We had 3 videos. We've had 3 videos here in the last couple of weeks that have all tipped over that 1,000. Getting into one of them got over 2,000 views, which like I know is not a ton, but in the YouTube world it is. And there's this weird momentum that ever since we hit that magic number has just really continue to roll and skyrocket. So it's been real fun. So thank you.
It's not a lot, but when we were getting like 59 views like a year ago and not caring about YouTube at all, it's nice to see it ramp up so much. 2 things before we sort of get started here. One, Corey, thank you for your sacrifices, what you're doing. So I know like he's either in his panic room or he's on a podcast if I ever see like this again.
Yep.
And Daniel Barber in the chat says, I never got a flag. Well, guess what, Daniel? I still have like 5 or 6 left.
Oh, nice.
So if you want to DM me on Twitter, your address, and if you live in the continental United States or someone that doesn't cost $12 to send it to you, I got a flag for you, Daniel.
There you go. And you guys stay tuned to the end of the show to find out how to slide in to Ren's DMs and let him know all of those things. Well, guys, with that, why don't we go ahead and begin to talk about this week? We always start with the roster moves. Pretty easy going this week. On Saturday, after we recorded our last Buck of the News, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers elevated Kenjon Barner from the practice squad to be that sort of extra guy. And they turned around as soon as the game was over and put him right back on the practice squad. Didn't have to clear through waivers. So he did that. However, last week, I think it was last week, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, the Buccaneers signed tight end Daniel Helm to their practice squad.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he got plucked off the practice squad to go over to San Francisco for their active roster. So that left them with an open spot. And today the Buccaneers signed wide receiver Isaac Whitney to fill that role on the practice squad. I don't know anything about this guy. Do you guys know anything about him? Is this a guy that we could keep tabs on at all? Or
yeah, he invented the cotton gin, right? Is that
yep, and peanut butter, I think.
Well, according to my trip that I'm on right now, that was actually Eli Whitney.
Oh, right.
Oh,
yeah, gotcha.
And Jefferson Carver.
Not Isaac, right?
George Washington Carver.
George Washington Carver. There you go. The second president of the United States.
Sure.
The first president of the United States. Second president of the United States plays safety for us. Anyway, actually, This is gone south so fast. The guy from Duke, the tight end that moved on, good for him. It was probably a big thrill for him to get on the practice squad, make a little money, be around the NFL team, but he's not getting on the field in this tight end room. You got Gronk, you got Howard, you got Anthony O'Clair, who's on the IR, and that's how he got on the practice squad in the first place, because they moved Tanner Hudson up, and then you got Cameron Brate. He was never going to see the field ever. So as much as we would be upset if someone like Josh Rosen left, this guy, this tight end for Duke had no future here whatsoever, at least this year, and probably next year, and probably the year after that. So good for him. And the wide receiver resigns another track guy. He's a Cyril Grayson. He's speed. So, it looks pretty obvious that the Bucs don't want to spend, a day one or probably even day two pick at this point on a wide receiver. But when they do, put it this way, when they take flyers on wide receiver, you got to run a 4-3. Or they're not even going to look at you.
And catch balls in the face, footballs in the face.
Yeah. He just overran it. Like, how do you overrun that? Like, he just overran it. It was like, hit him right.
The wind caught it, guys. The wind caught it.
Right.
It was real windy that day.
Yeah.
I mean, you make a good point. I don't know that I've ever actually thought about it, but I always seem surprised when the Buccaneers draft a new wide receiver. But you think about what we have right now. We've got Mike Evans for a couple more years. We got Chris Godwin, who we're getting ready to re-sign. I don't think there is any way they're going to let him walk out of the building.
Justin Watson's got a year left. Scotty Miller's got 2 years left.
Right. And we've got Tyler Johnson, who that looks a little iffy right now, but hey, it's his rookie season. And he didn't really have a training camp at all, or a preseason at all to do anything. So we'll cut him some slack this year. But yeah, it's a loaded wide receiver room from guys we have drafted and that we like, generally speaking, as a team. So with that being said, the Buccaneers just perfunctory this week placed on the protected list. Nobody can pluck them off. Kenjon Barber, Ross Cockrell, who's a cornerback. Cyril Grayson is back on that list, and I think he's been on this list just about every week. And then kicker Greg Joseph, who also has been on this list about every single week as well too.
It's interesting that they keep protecting Cocker. Is it
Cockrell?
I think Cockrell
first week being protected, but they keep protecting Greg Joseph and Cyril Grayson though.
Okay,
and I can go ahead.
No, it doesn't really matter. Like, remember how excited we were? Like, oh, protection. There's something else to talk about. That happens. We're like, who cares?
Yeah. Right.
But Cockrell, who's a cornerback, came from the Panthers, who has one of the worst secondaries in the league. So you're like, well, how good can this guy be? Well, he's getting protected. So either around the NFL, cornerback play is very thin, or like they don't trust Ryan Smith, which we saw because when the cornerback went down, they gave it to I'm calling him A-Dubs. Antoine Whitfield Jr. A-Dubs.
AWJ.
AWJ. I thought about calling him Sarsaparilla because A&W root beer and the root in root beer is sarsaparilla.
Wow,
so
that's a deep cut.
That is a deep cut. But then his initials are AW, and W equals wins, and the kids today call wins dubs, so I'm calling them A-Dubs.
Wow, that was you know the movie what is it, Ocean's 11, where it's like we're in Bonnie. I'm like, what? And like it gets all the way to mean we're in trouble. It's Bonnie Rubble treble. Anyway, that's that. Yeah. Okay. Hey.
That's how you felt that explanation went.
Exactly. You mentioned them being comfortable though. Speaking of A-Dubs, bringing him down into the nickel, or maybe Corey did. One of you guys two did. We'll go ahead and jump this a little bit. Sean Murphy Bunting has been injured this week with a groin injury. Now he was full participation by Friday, but there was a note from BA in one of his press conferences where he said, even then, if he can't go, they feel really comfortable bringing Antoine Winfield down into the nickel. Like there is no talk of bringing Ryan Smith in for this team, like none at all. He'll stay on special teams, and
I'm okay with that.
I think everybody's okay with that.
Yeah, and I know, like, again, we'll reference Brent being on the road. Sean Murphy-Bunting's playing. BA said in the presser, 100%. He's going. He's healthy, ready to rock and roll. He'll be there.
Right. Yeah, and I think the quote I was just pulling was from earlier in the week when he was just on the report and they were talking about it. So, but that's all the roster moves and everything that they have. They do use all 4 of those protected spots this week, as opposed to last week where they just only used 3 for whatever reason. So let's move on. We had a couple of headlines this week that are kind of fun to talk about. This one more perfunctory, I guess, than anything else. The Buccaneers.
Well, okay, you've used that. What does that mean? You said that twice.
Perfunctory is we say it because we have I don't know, Google it. I use it. How do you describe a word without using the word? You
know it's perfunctory.
Yeah, you say it as a matter of
here you go, Brent. I looked it up.
Okay, here we go.
An adjective of an action or gesture carried out with a minimum of effort or reflection.
Oh, so like God bless you.
Yes.
Or how are you?
Uh-huh. Yes, and it also usually bears the idea of you do it just because you're supposed to do it. Right? So
there you go.
Basically, in this show, it means not a lot to talk about. I'm just mentioning it just for the sake of mentioning it because it's something that happens out there. That being said, the Buccaneers are currently in sole possession of the NFC South as it sits right now. Granted, they're only 3 weeks down. We're moving into week 4 right now, but they are in possession of this with the Saints losing it last week. The Falcons completely tanking at the end of last week. And the Panthers are just being the Panthers. Buccaneers are in control of the NFC South. So I think this is
looking back, 15-1.
Yep.
There we go. I like
Super Bowl bound.
I like it. I dig it.
I have them. I don't think we ever talked about our predictions. We did it once as a joke. Like,
right.
Brent, how many games do you think the Bucs are going to win? All of them. Like all of them.
Right.
Like let's not.
That
go
was one of my
schedule.
favorite episodes, by the way.
Yeah, it was like the schedule that. Let's go through it. Like I don't even know who these guys drafted. Like,
right.
Let's break down the schedule. What do you think the record's going to be? But now I'm going 6-2. I'm going 12-4, 6-2 in the first half, 6-2 in the second half. And that's losing the Packers game, and then the second half losing the Chiefs and the Saints game, which I don't think we are anymore. So now, like, I could push 13-3.
13-3.
But I'm not, because you're going to lose a game you're not supposed to. And, but when you do that, you usually win a game you're not supposed to. But the only 2 games left that we should not win or, like, won't be favored in or, maybe stumble is the Packers and the Chiefs. And then we'll see how the Saints are playing by the time they get here.
I don't know. I've seen a few people pick the Chargers for this week, and for the life of me, in fact, I even tweeted at Pewter Report when John Ledyard picked the Chargers to win this week. I said he is suspended from their podcast for the rest of the year. I'm saying it.
I'm waiting for it to drop. Like it's the Bucs fan and all of us where we're just waiting for that game that we're supposed to just blow them out, and then we just let them stay in it and then blow it in the fourth quarter by missing a field goal or something stupid.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the schedule right now. It's like I actually don't expect that for this game. I kind of expect it for the Raiders because it's John Gruden, and that just feels like a Bucs thing to do.
Yeah, I could see it, but we're gonna talk about the game later when we get the things we're watching. But I'm saying is CCP, and I'll tell you what that means later.
CCP.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what that means. We'll find out.
It's
Corey
an
cooks
acronym.
pasta, I believe.
Google it.
Corey's Closet Planogram.
Performance. Yeah. Podcast. That was right there.
There you go.
We missed it.
Corey's Closet Podcast. Corey's got
There
a
we go.
coming out, ladies and gentlemen. You guys make sure you go check it out.
In the closet with Corey.
Right. All right. Well, moving on. Leonard Fournette is going to be out this week. This is a little bit jumping the gun on the injury report, but Leonard Fournette is out this week, which means Keyshawn Vaughn, and according to BA, he's going to see some snaps and he's going to see some action this week. So NFL debut for Keyshawn Vaughn. Ren, you're very excited?
I am. I want to see what he can do. I mean, they picked him in front of Johnson. We needed a wide receiver. We all, like, if everyone remembers, there were like 4 running backs that the Bucs wanted. They had a chance at Dobbins, but they went with Winfield, and thank you. And
Arguments, it just you did.
at the time, I didn't like it at all. But
I was there. I saw it.
I saw it live. But yeah, so now this is the guy that they targeted and went after, like a 3rd round guy from Vanderbilt, a running back. Like that's something that doesn't happen a lot. So yeah, I want to see him block. I want to see him catch. I want to see him run the ball. I want to see him. I don't even know what number he is. I want to see him in his uniform. Like last week, we got to find out what Johnson, looked like in his uniform. Looked pretty good. I want to see what Keyshawn Vaughn looks like in his uniform.
I'll tell you something that I'm interested to see what happens is how. Well, I'm going to save this. Actually, I'm going to save this for later. I'm going to save it for later. Keyshawn Vaughn's coming in. We should get our first looks at Keyshawn Vaughn this coming game. With that, hey, how about some fun news before we get into some kind of sad news, I guess? Buccaneers had a slew of honors get tossed their way this week. Shaq Barrett, we'll start there, named Defensive Player of the Week for his 2-sack performance in Denver, going back and knocking the tar out of his old team there. But Shaq Barrett, yay for him. By the way, 3-time PewterCast Award winner in year 1.
That's a bigger accolade.
I agree. Correct.
Okay.
Ren?
He did what he was supposed to do, man.
Yeah.
Denver's offensive line was all beat up. Their tackles weren't good to begin with. And he came home. And, it was nice that sort of like, the cherry on the sundae was the 2nd sack came as a safety. So, yeah, it was good.
He did. I mean, he did what was I expected at least 2 sacks from him in this game. And I honestly was a little disappointed it wasn't more, but, here we are.
I had some
being snooty about sacks when we couldn't even get 10 sacks in a year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I well deserved for him, and I'm glad he did it against his old team.
I think that probably had a little bit to do with it.
Yeah. People were watching for sure. In addition to that, his teammate A-Dubs, as Ren has so cleverly nicknamed him, AWJ, was named Defensive Rookie of the Month.
He was
well deserved. Should be. I mean, is there he's the rookie defensive player for the year right now. The way he's
Corey.
How exciting is this, by the way? And I know we got another award to get to, but spoiler alert, it's defensive. So how exciting is this considering our defensive woes over the last, 12 years, that we're having these players get recognized? And do you think a lot of it has to do now, if Jameis Winston was still our quarterback, sorry for invoking his name, would these awards still come, or do you feel like they would still get buried?
I'm not even going to entertain that question.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I think they do. I really do. I think because
you're losing the games. But you got to think about it. We're losing the games. You're thinking it's the same outcome. You got to add 3 interceptions, 2 of them for pick sixes, a missed field goal to lose a game somewhere you should have won. Teams that are 1 and 2 don't get these awards.
Except for, you remember what's his face? Devin White was it Defensive Rookie of the Month or Defensive Player of the Month back-to-back months at the end of the season last year when the defense was really turning on, but the Buccaneers were still losing.
But the Buccaneers went over 500 the last 2 months of the year.
Is that how it worked out last year? I honestly don't remember how those worked out.
The win streak when we started to play the games we thought we should win. That's when they jettisoned Hargraves week 9, week 10.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
And they started winning games. And then of course, Jameis said, well, you can't win the last 2 of the year. Right. That's not how we do things around here.
Right. Here's the thing. I think that Ren's got a point. I would say yes, they probably do, because the defense is still showing out doing what they have to do, assuming that they do. I mean, here's the thing though, Corey, it's a hard question to ask because you get the Brady effect, right? It changes everything, so bringing in that one change really makes it hard. But if you assume everything's the same In my mind, yeah, they should be still getting these awards, but
Should be.
I think Ren makes a really good point there as well.
Yeah, well, and it brings it into the next one you're about to mention too,
Right.
who never gets his accolades until this year. So
right, and Corey, I mean, I love having you on podcast because that's actually where I was going to go after I wrapped up this one. Was look at all these defensive guys getting it. David has come in with the defensive player of the month, all the way around. So kudos to Levante, well deserved. Long time coming for sure.
it's his first one ever.
Is it really?
That's crazy.
That's nuts.
Yeah, Carmen Vitale tweeted that a couple days ago.
Carmen,
Can you believe that?
to get him in, all the accolades that he so justly deserves.
Right. Well, and that's the kind of the impetus as to why I asked that question earlier, is because it's like here's somebody who has been, criminally underrated, and we all know this. Everyone listening to this podcast knows that, and the whole expectation with the Brady effect is that he is going to be the biggest. The person that reaps the benefits the most from Brady being here in the national spotlight, because people finally see how good he is, and so far that's true.
He's been doing that the whole time, folks.
Yeah,
he's been the whole time. I mean, like you put his numbers up against Luke Kuechly, right? Levante beats him out in 8 out of the 10 categories when you put the numbers next to him, but the one where they missed, back to I guess Ren's point from earlier, is the win-loss column. And you look at what the Panthers have done over Kuechly's career versus what the Buccaneers have done over David's career. And, it stands out. It begins to stand out. So congratulations, though, to those 3 guys, Shaq Barrett, AWJ, and Levante David. Good job, gentlemen.
I think I'm going to call him W.
Dubs. As I know that all 3 of them listen religiously to every episode PewterCast puts out, from Gene Deckerhoff to Ren Dax at the very end, to go Bucs. All right. Final bit of headline coming out this week that we'll talk about this week. This is not so much Buccaneers as much as it is the entire league, but it does affect the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. As I'm sure everybody listening now knows, the Tennessee Titans have had COVID running rampant through their team. And it seems like every day they're coming out with, at least the last 3 days in a row, there's been another person tested positive, another couple of people tested positive, another couple of people tested positive. It has resulted in the NFL postponing their game against the Steelers until later in the season. Fine, I don't give 2 flying rips about when those guys actually play that game. But what has resulted in is the NFL and the NFLPA have gone back and revamped their agreement regarding testing practices around the league. And pull that up here. Basically, what it goes to is they're moving to like mandatory testing of everybody, I think like every single day, if I read it correctly. And then basically, if anybody on the team does anything that is like potentially detrimental to COVID or potentially brings it in, like huge fines. And Brent, I think you pointed out earlier, like nobody can leave the city or the state during their bye week.
The city
can't.
Yeah,
leave.
like you can't leave your city. Yeah, I mean, the NFL, tried to, and who really knows what fault it is? But what they did is they tested heavy at the beginning, make sure they got everybody in the building nice and clear. Okay, then they scaled back the testing. Maybe it's cost effective. Maybe it's like, okay, well, now that we know that we're in the clear, we feel like this level of testing will keep it out of, most facilities or all the facilities, I'm sure they thought. And then somebody somewhere did something. Now, no one's pointing fingers. You hear a lot of people say, well, players got kids and kids go to school and they get it and they don't, and the kids don't show symptoms and then they give it to the player and the player doesn't show symptoms and they walk in there. And well, okay, if you knew that was the case, then you never should have stopped testing every day. So they've ramped that back up. And now the NFL is trying to show the players and the organization and the staff that, and mostly I think it's a lot to the staff, because if you've seen, like in baseball, like it wasn't the players, it was the staff that was heavily infected that got then it spread to the players. And even in Tennessee, it was like 2 players and like 5 staff members, organizational people. And that, and it's not like the defensive coordinator, it could be like the videographer or the person who runs the Instagram account, or, you know, or the guy that runs around with the water bottles at practice. Like, they're trying to show these people, like, this is not going to stop. We're going to have an NFL season. And if you can't be responsible enough to do what we tell you to do, we're gonna hammer you. Because if you're the reason that we don't have a Super Bowl in January and lose out on millions and millions and millions and millions and millions, probably $1 billion, like, you're gonna know we're upset with you.
It'd be well over $1 billion. Because what was it, Ren, a couple years ago? Like, they just found $8 billion and they got a check for $300 million that covered their salary cap for the year or something stupid like that.
Yeah. Here's a $350 million check that we found in accounting.
Right.
Everyone gets one.
Right.
What I hope is that this is not like baseball, and that it took they had to cancel or reschedule a whole bunch of games. Like, it spread from one team to another. Like, it got almost out of hand. I'm hoping that this is enough of a wake-up call, both for the NFL and for the players, to take things seriously. Like you said, who knows who actually caught it? You know, could have been staff member or whatever, but it ain't no joke. And they rescheduled this game, but what happens if come that game time somebody tests positive again? You know, they can only do that so much. So that can really screw things up.
I'm not worried about it. They'll figure it out. Like, I'm really not. Like, they'll, you know, if it's like you have to. I saw someone, I think it was Schefter, talking about how they might revisit or even go forward with having 100 free agents in a hard bubble, like they did with hockey and like they did with basketball. And if it gets out of hand, well, this is what, it's not my. You didn't follow the rules.
We're getting
you didn't get enough. Like, this is the group of people that have already been COVID tested, don't have to wait the 3-4 days. You know, it's like, oh, we need a replacement. You sign him Monday. He can't hit the practice field till Friday because you got to take a test, wait 24 hours, wait 48 hours, take a test, wait another 24 hours, take another test. And if those are all 3 negative, then you can go. So they're going to have guys, maybe in a hard bubble that they can bring in, at the drop of a hat. But also what helps with football, it's different from baseball as far as canceling games, is baseball plays, like, they usually play 5 days a week. This year they played 6 days a week because it was, sometimes
7.
Yeah, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the entire baseball season happened while they were in Edmonton. Or, well, actually, they were in both places. But so while they were in their bubble during the hockey playoffs, the entire baseball season happened. So, that's how, they got 60 games in that stretch. So that's one thing that's, at least, is helping football, is that you only got to play once a week.
Yeah. And hopefully this really, well, let me ask you guys this. If push came to shove, does the NFL cancel the season, or does it really become a season of replacements? And let's keep moving. And we're talking about people playing and suiting up these teams that we have never heard of before in our lives.
I think they would do that before canceling, for sure.
Yeah.
That, like, I think, a lot would have to happen for them to cancel. I mean, people were talking about how MLB was going to cancel with all the positive tests they had from 2 different teams at least. But they kept going.
Yeah.
And they came out on the other side of it. So I think it's even more reason for the NFL to just keep going, even if it spreads a whole bunch.
And both those baseball teams are in the baseball playoffs, by the way.
That is correct.
Are they really? Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think they'll cancel, but if you make it like push comes to shove, like there's this mass, like 15 people and, 9 of them are starters on every single team, get it? The NFL will just go hard bubble. They'll just go to Orlando, and they've got plenty of hotel rooms, and they've got plenty of fields, and like at Wild World Sports at Disney, and just hard bubble and finish up the season, and just put everything on TV, and hopefully, all they have to do is drive an hour and a half up the road and play the Super Bowl in Tampa. But yeah, I mean, they would just pause the season for like 3 weeks, and hard bubble up and then start again. If it came to that bad where it was like, look, man, like there's 2 people on defense that were even on the roster when the season started, you know?
Right. Well, I don't know, because the way the injury thing is happening this whole year, it seems like they might have to go not necessarily for COVID, but just for all the other injury stuff.
Has anybody looked that up? Because I feel like I have that conversation every single year.
The what?
That this is the most injuries I can remember seeing. I feel like every single football season when it starts, it's one, this is the worst officiating I've ever seen, but thank God, the officials have been told, like, unless it and this is the way I always thought it should be, unless it's egregious or directly affects the play, don't call it. Yeah. That Raider game we like to complain about where it was like 4th down and they need to score a touchdown. And they call, a defensive holding where the receiver ran into our Buccaneer guy. Was it Ryan Smith? It was Ryan Smith.
Ran in Barima.
That's who it was. Yes, yeah. Jab. It was Jab. And he ran into Jab, and Jab basically grabbed him from not falling over. And they get a new fresh set of downs. And it's like David Carr now, if he looked over there and was trying to go at the guy, call it. But he never even looked at that side of the field. Right. Never looked. Threw an incomplete pass, game over. That's the way officiating should be. So anyway, back to my point. Has anybody looked up there's more injuries, or is it just because this is what we say every year?
I don't. Okay, I'm no statistician or scientist or whoever puts these numbers together. But just based on my 18 years of experience playing fantasy football, I've never had this many people on my team fall apart. Which is anecdotal, but it certainly seems like it's way more. I don't remember having those conversations in recent years of there's a lot of injuries.
Well, Corey, you were out for a while, buddy. You retired.
What's that?
If you'd been in, you would have been having these conversations.
Oh, that's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, no, I mean, Ren, I get your point, but no, we haven't looked it up.
Okay.
I'm not going to. But
I'm not either. But by this time, if it's such a pandemic of injuries, thank you, my new favorite word, like someone would have gone, shouldn't you think somebody, somewhere, at least some team would have actually gone, or ESPN or Fox or Greg, or somebody would have gone and looked at the percentage of players.
Yeah, Greg Allman would know for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Corey.
Well, just real quick, if Jude Barima is Jab, does that mean Antoine Winfield Jr. is Oj?
No, he's A-Dubs.
It's the same thing. I kind of like Oj.
Yeah, well, you're weird.
We'll keep going. We'll get Auntie. That's his name. We'll figure it out.
No,
keep going, Brent.
Anthony O'Clair.
Loose cannons call him Ant-Man.
Ant-Man. That's pretty good. That's solid.
I think it's a little too degrading.
All right. We got to pull this back in, guys. Speaking of injuries, let's go ahead and take a look at the injury report for this week. Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Los Angeles Chargers. That is still weird for me to say. Should be San Diego Chargers. Let's look at the Chargers real quick. The Chargers, like the Broncos, have a lot of guys on IR that are already out for the season. A couple of guys that come to mind: Derwin James, Melvin Ingram, I think Chris Harris. I think is another guy who I think is a starting cornerback.
Yep.
Those guys are done. They're not even on this injury report. But on this injury report, out for the game, Brian Bulaga, Tyrod Taylor, Trey Turner, and Mike Williams are all out. Now, Brian Bulaga
and Keenan Allen's out too, right? He's on the IR.
No, he's in there.
He's in there. Okay.
In there, yeah.
Yeah, I think he might have started or something, but I think he's healthy.
Yeah, he's not on the injury report at all, not this week. But the Brian Bulaga and Trey Turner are both starting offensive linemen for the Chargers. So that's big. Tyrod Taylor, obviously, he is out. Who's the quarterback they have now? Is it
Justin Herbert?
Herbert,
yeah,
Herbert, yeah.
So he'll be out, and then Mike Williams is out as well, listed as questionable, which means they probably will play as Rayshon Jenkins, Storm Norton, Tyree St. Louis, Nick Vigil. No names that I personally recognize there of any consequence. Joey Bosa is on the injury report, but he was full participation by Friday, so we'll see him go. Is he lining up against Wirfs, or is he Donovan Smith?
He's Donovan Smith.
He's Donovan Smith.
Yeah.
Hooray!
Yeah. Let me ask you this: if you're a defensive lineman these days, who do you want to line up against versus the Buccaneers? Donovan Smith or Tristan Wirfs?
Donovan Smith.
Yeah.
Watching the tape. So that is the Chargers injury report. Let's move over to Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We already mentioned earlier today that Leonard Fournette is out. Joining him out is Chris Godwin, who re-aggravated a hamstring injury. So he is gone. Re-aggravated during the game, if I remember correctly. Also, Scotty Miller is out. Or not, I'm sorry. Scotty Miller is questionable, but he is on the injury report with a hip groin injury.
Mm-hmm.
He was full participation, but he sat out both Wednesday and Thursday. He's probably going to play, most likely going to play. But with him being a little bit banged up, with Chris Godwin being out, given what we saw from Tyler Johnson last week, you guys think we're going to see a little bit more Tyler Johnson this week?
I personally hope so. I've had a crush on Tyler Johnson since I saw him play at Ray J in their bowl game where he dominated for Minnesota. I want to see what he's got. He didn't. I think he dropped. Did he drop a pass on Sunday? I felt like he was
his only target.
Yeah. I love Tyler Johnson, at least as a prospect. So I hope he gets some more looks. I just hope Brady doesn't put him in the doghouse and stop throwing to him if he drops it.
I don't think so. And more because he doesn't really have any, like, he can't just like bench him, you know? It's like, it's, you know, he doesn't have Mike and Chris and with maybe Tyler Johnson's on there. And then you have like a tight end or running back. So you're my fifth option. But he was in for a good amount of plays. I think it was in the low 20s or high teens he played. Like he played like almost as many as Scotty Miller. So we know that was good. He said that he plays, I play 3 positions and I'm wondering what those are. Is that like X, Y, and Z? And if that's it, then you play one, you play wide receiver.
Hey, not if you ask John Gruden.
Yeah, I understand. Like some receivers are better X or only X, and some receivers are better X or Y's and only Y's. But I mean, like Mike Evans, yes, he's a better, you know, I don't even know which one's which. You say he's a better Z, an outside guy, but it doesn't mean he can't play slot. He's a wide receiver. And if you're a wide receiver, it's just a spot where you line up in a route you run. Like, does it really matter like where you start from?
Right.
So if that's what he's talking about, who cares? Yeah, I think I'm excited to see him. I was shocked that he dropped that ball. But maybe, you know, Kareem Hunt never fumbled in college. His first NFL, you know, run, he fumbled, and I don't think he's fumbled since. So, you know, there's, you know, Tyler can look at that if he wants to. But yeah, I'm excited to see Keyshawn Vaughn. I'm excited to see Tyler Johnson, to see what these guys can do on Sunday.
I feel like Justin Watson, at least he seemed to have a good rapport with Brady when he was in there. He's seen some looks. So I wonder how much action he's going to get if Scotty is indeed ailing. I mean, he'll probably play, but how much will he play?
Yeah,
Jay Watt's wide receiver too.
Oh yeah, with Godwin out.
Yeah, I think Jay Watts, him and Scotty will sort of get the same amount of plays, and I think Justin Watson will be Chris Godwin. He's going to play the slot, and I think Justin Watson's having a great year. Like, he's made some really good catches. The one catch where you know, was quote unquote considered a drop. It was a good play by the defender, and he almost re-corralled it, and that's how he ended up hurting his arm, because he was sort of reaching for it while he was diving and fell on himself, and you know, and all his weight came down sort of on the underside of the shoulder, if that makes any sense, which it doesn't. But if you see the replay, you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, I think it's going to be, you know, everybody on deck, and when we start talking about the Chargers, you know, it'll be more clear for you what I mean by that.
Yeah, and so let me ask you guys this: with Justin Watson being in there, Scotty Miller being in there, Chris Godwin out, I think the easy thing to say, or the easy idea, is that Mike Evans is going to be the guy who winds up getting doubled the most. So do we expect that to open up, maybe some stuff over here for a guy like Justin Watson, who really hasn't been in the spotlight over the course of his time in the NFL just yet, because he's usually been like wide receiver 5 so far.
I wonder if it actually more. I wonder with Godwin out, and with Fournette out, honestly, less so Fournette. I'm just kind of thinking out loud here, but I wonder if the tight ends are going to get a big increase. I mean, already Brady's been looking at OJ, and as of last Sunday, he's looking at Gronk. I'm wondering if with Mike getting doubled, that would more benefit Gronk and OJ than anybody.
Yeah, there were a couple of things here. One, Denver started out with double Mike, double Chris, make someone else beat you. So that's what they did. They went underneath a lot to Gronk. They went underneath to Shady a couple of times. Went underneath to OJ. The one where Justin Watson got hurt, that was an underneath crossing pass pattern. So that's what they did. Like, okay, you're in double outside, so we're going to throw underneath in the middle. So that could happen again. The second thing is that now we're through 3 games and Mike's had 1 Mike game. He was injured in the New Orleans game. I really don't buy that. I really don't buy that he's only like 70% now. I know BA just came out and said he's not fully healthy. I don't buy that either, but I don't know. It could be right. The Chargers are not going to double Mike Evans as man defense. They play tons of deep zone.
Yeah.
The Chargers are like, you're not going to throw it over our head. So, if who's going to have the worst game as a wide receiver? Scotty Miller, because they're not going to let him get behind him. Like, they're just not going to let him do it. So Mike's going to be able to find a lot of those holes in the zone like he did with Jameis, those 17-yard ends, those, the middle of the field. Also, the tight ends could play a huge part of it. And BA said they got to do better moving them around. So Mike's going to play slot this game. You're going to see him in there. And so however San Diego reacts to that, we'll see. And I think any time that Brady recognizes Mike Evans as one-on-one, he's going to look to him first.
Mm. Well, hey, remember, there's also that narrative of the kind of rivalry between Keenan Allen and Godwin and Evans, based on their little Twitter spat earlier this year. So Mike's got something to prove.
Could care less.
I knew you'd love that, Ren.
Yeah.
We've kind of already started touching on it, so let's go ahead and just dive into it. Corey, I'll throw it to you first. What are the things you're looking forward to seeing in this week's game against the Chargers?
Looking forward to seeing. I think it's put up or shut up time for Rojo. I feel like he's been fine. He's been fine, but it just seems like it seemed like for a second there, Fournette's going to take over. But then
so did Brent.
Yeah. Well, and then, BA doubled down. He's like, no, it's still Rojo's job as a starter. And we like to have a closer. Well, Fournette's out. And so it's just Shady and Rojo and Keyshawn. It seems like this is Rojo's time to shine, if ever there was, especially with a hurt defensive line with the Chargers. I think if he's going to break out that big run, show that speed that we know he has, that he hasn't exactly shown on an NFL field, I'm looking to see if he steps up.
Yeah. CCP. I'll break it out.
Here it is.
Cut, copy, paste, man. This is the Broncos game all over again. It's the exact same thing. Brian Beloga protected Aaron Rodgers for years. The Chargers went and got him. He got hurt, tried to go last week, got pulled. They're not all pro. Their Pro Bowl guard is out. Their Pro Bowl center is out for the season. So you're looking at, imagine the Buccaneers offensive line and take 3 guys off it. And one of them's got to be Marpet, and the other one's got to be whoever you think the next best player is. Actually, it's their top 3 players. Mm-hmm. And then try to stop the Buccaneers front 7 with that. They've got one of their receivers down. They got a quarterback. I don't like people people did not watch that Chargers game last week. They're like, oh wow, they took Kansas City to overtime. And he threw for 300 yards against the Panthers. He threw a pick. He threw like a late pick in the first half that went to a Panthers field goal. I heard today on a podcast that the Panthers were in the red zone for the first 5 drives, 0 touchdowns.
Yeah.
They haven't scored over 20 points yet. Like they're averaging like 16, 17 points a game. The Bucs are averaging like 30. Plus we go to their defense. They have their own JPP and Shaq. Pick one, whichever one's Bosa, whichever one's I'm going to get this right. Ingram. Ingram's out. He's on the IR for 3 weeks. Yeah. So you got so those guys away. So and then you talk Derwin James gone for the year. Chris Harris Jr. gone for at least 3 weeks. Those are their best 2 defensive backs. And you're gonna go okay, and we lose Chris Godwin. Like it's going to be the exact same thing. It's going to be a slaughter. Now, the only reason it won't be possibly there's 2. No, the only reason is there's like a 90% chance of rain. But what kind of rain are we getting? Are we getting like it's going to downpour for 15 minutes, Florida rain, and then the sun comes out and it's great? Or is it going to be one of those like drizzly things all day? And how is that? Like, I don't know enough about Tom Brady to actually know that it's going to affect the way he throws. I don't think so. He's been playing in New England in the snow and the crappy weather forever, and Gillette Stadium's outside, and they've been hosting playoff games up there for 20 years now. So I don't think so, but I just haven't seen it from my own eyes. The Bucs are going to kill him. Like Vita Vea is going to eat again. Like Dominican Sue's going to have a great game. Shaq again is going to have a great game. JPP is going to get his 1 sack a game like he always does. The linebackers are going to feast. Like, yes, Eckler's a nice back, but so was McCaffrey. And so was down the line all the way to the beginning of last year.
Yeah,
like,
everybody.
Everybody, like it's time. This defense is going to kill this guy. He makes a great throw, then he makes like these throws where it's like, Jesus, like what are you even thinking? If they don't roll him out and try to get him out of the pocket with RPOs or naked bootlegs, it's going to be what we saw in Denver, but worse. It's this just like last week. Don't turn the ball over, we win. Same thing. I mean, I would say this game would be 42-10, but the rain kind of like, I don't know how much rain there's going to be. Like this is going to be an ass pounding. Well,
you forgot another factor there, Ren, that could change things.
What's that?
Is we're facing a rookie quarterback.
I think I said that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
No, I think he's talking about the rookie quarterback curse, right?
Yes.
I know what he's talking about, but it didn't happen last week.
I just to kind of and your point, like you can't like I know some people are looking, oh, look at the Chiefs game, they took the Chiefs overtime, but that was on a day when no one knew who to start, like that he was going to start for quarterback. The team
no idea what they were going to do
all week for Tyrod Taylor. Then suddenly his trainer punctures his lung, like no one could have anticipated. So they had no film on this guy. They had no idea how this offense would look, and of course he's not the same quarterback as Tyrod Taylor, so they didn't run the same offense. I mean, it's probably similar offense, but
and they lost.
Yeah, and they still lost. But so yeah, I think we have 2 weeks of tape on this guy, and the Panthers are not a good team.
No, their secondary is awful.
Yeah,
people are like, hell, he threw for 300 yards. So,
Yep.
Like, so what? Like they were down the whole game, the whole entire game. I don't know how many times he threw, but they're down the whole entire game. There's 2 things they're going to try to do. This is what I would do if I was Todd Bowles. And I'm not trying to tell Todd Bowles what to do because Todd Bowles knows what the hell he's doing, obviously. But the only big plays that, besides maybe a pass here or there, down the seam or on the sidelines, the only way they're going to move the ball consistently was the RPO. Now, with an RPO, you leave the defensive end uncovered. Like, you do not block him. The tackle crashes down, and they're blocking more guys on the inside, and the quarterback has to take care of the defensive end. If the defensive end goes to the running back, he pulls the ball and goes where the defensive end is supposed to be. Okay? Or the naked bootleg I talked about. If you remember 2 weeks ago in the Cleveland game when it was Burrow versus Mayfield, They kept doing this naked bootleg with Baker and getting him open and getting him in space. Herbert can run. He's a big boy. He's an athletic guy. Like, he can make plays with his feet, and that's what the only chance they get. So when they run the naked bootleg, the defensive end is not covered. He is not blocked because all the linemen are blocking that way. So defensive ends for the Buccaneers, or edge rusher, I don't call them, if you're not blocked, go get Herbert. Because if you follow the run, he's going to bootleg around you and get into space and make some plays. If he's RPO, if you run at him, he's going to give the ball to Eckler, and I trust the other 10 guys are going to be able to tackle him, especially with the offensive line in front of him. This is going to be a massacre. A massacre.
I like it. I like hearing that. I'm excited to see what actually winds up happening. Corey, I'm with you, though, when you talk about Rojo. And this may shock Ren, but I'm really excited to see what comes out of Rojo. I do want to see what happens with Keyshawn Vaughn this game, but I'm excited to watch Rojo, who really is sort of stepping in as the guy. He doesn't have somebody barking on his heels. He doesn't have a Leonard Fournette or a Peyton Barber that he's splitting carries with. Like, he's going to be the guy. Now, they'll still be LaShawn McCoy. They'll still put in Keyshawn Vaughn. But really, it's going to be the Rojo show. And I'm excited to see if he takes advantage of this opportunity and shines. Because I think we all want Rojo to work out. I think we all want Rojo to be the guy. And so I'm excited to see that. The other thing I'm watching for in this particular game, and Ren, this comes off of something you were saying actually this week, is I want to be watching for the fourth quarter exhaustion that you were telling us about how they just get to the fourth quarter and they just they've been pushing all game long, pushing, and they just get tired. They're human beings. It happens. They've been going that hard. So I want to watch and see really if that's a big factor in the dip off. And then the other thing is, I think Donovan Smith, and I'm going to be watching Donovan Smith until I don't have to watch Donovan Smith anymore. And
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, he's the guy that you have to watch. He's the guy who has been the biggest question mark. Some weeks he's fine. Most weeks he's not. Or sometimes he's good for the first half of the game, but then the second half of the game comes out, he's just horrible. So, those I think are the things that I'm really keeping my eyes on in this particular game. Well, guys, why don't we go ahead and round the corner here? Let's round out our show as well with predictive MVPs. Corey, I'll throw it to you first. Who do you predict? Who do you say is the Buccaneers MVP in their game week number 4 versus the LA Chargers?
Man, I put so many names in my brain. I've been thinking about this actually the whole episode. I think Mike Evans is going to eat. I think he's going to benefit a lot from being the only, all-star target out there as far as the wide receiver position is concerned. I think he's going to have a Mike Evans game, but it's a Mike Evans game. We expect that. You don't want to pick Tom Brady because it's boring. So I also kind of want to pick Devin White, but that's also becoming boring now. So, hey, let's go with Cameron Brate. Just kidding, not Cam Brate. But I will say OJ Howard. Let's go with OJ Howard. I think he's going to have a lot of targets this game, and I think he gets 2 touchdowns. Let's go ahead and say it. Put it on the board.
Wow.
All right. That's why we call him predictive.
Yes.
Okay.
YOLO, baby.
Not wishful, predictive, Corey. Predictive.
Okay. Something about the Bosa comment with Donovan Smith. You got one guy to stop this week. It's Joey Bosa. Just put Gronk over there every play, and you'll be fine. And just run. And if it's a total monsoon or the weather plays a part, or that the Bucs feel like the game's never going to be in jeopardy, Ronald Jones is going to get a lot of chances to show up this game. Mm-hmm. I really think he is. So my predictive MVP, I'm taking Villa again. I think, and this is why I think he wins it, because he had a very good game last week. He was who's that X-Man that, once he gets going, you can't stop him? Oh, see you, Brent. Corey, who's that guy? Like Juggernaut.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you know who I am?
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
So I think Villa just, the center's the backup center, and the guy who's going to help block Villa, which is double teams, he just takes them really both and just pushes them back in the backfield, is also the backup guy, who's also has to deal with Sue, who the guy next to him is also the backup guy who has to deal with Shaq Barrett. Like, it is going to be grotesque. Like, I fear for Herbert's health this game. I do. Like, I fear for his, like, no, I don't think he gets out of the game. Like, I think he gets hurt and gets knocked out of the game at some point. It's going to be a complete bloodbath unless Todd Bowles takes this week off and goes, we're just going to rush 4 and see, and depend on the back half of our defense. And because why? Because we're playing the Chargers, and they're not going to, like, assume all we got to do is score 21 and we win, because they're not going to do it. But yeah, so sorry, my predictive is Villa, I think, but with his performance from last week is going to help propel sort of him forward this week with 2 good games in a row, and they feel like, oh, we should give it to Villa.
But do you think Vita Vea is going to use whatever center they have there to tackle their running back?
Bam, 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 bam. Yeah, JPP did the same thing, and he folded him. He folded him backwards like a cardboard cutout, just like,
great.
Wham!
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, and he does that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, not like knocking the guy into the running back, but I remember last year he had the center on this half of his body, okay? And then Derrick Henry came at him, and he put his arm out and grabbed him and hugged them both together and then fell over. Derrick Henry.
Right.
It's crazy. Like, I know I keep talking about it. It's so crazy how strong he is. Like, you just, like, it's incomprehensible. Like, at this point, I think he could stop like a train. Like, he could, like, just pull it off the track and tip it over. Like, like that hump move. Like, it's just, okay, he can't. But I'm trying to think of something.
I'm going to go with my predictive MVP, perhaps as a surprise to Ren. And this may actually be more wishful thinking than it is actual what I think is going to happen. But I'm picking Rojo. I think it's going to be a good game for Rojo, or at least I hope it's going to be a good game for Rojo. And I really think he's going to show out. I think he's going to have just a hell of a game. And mostly because I think that the Buccaneers are going to find more and more opportunities to run the ball, be it because they're up so much, be it because of rain, be it because of whatever reason. I think they're just going to run, and most of those opportunities are going to go to Rojo. And if nothing else, it's going to be sheer volume. He's going to get it. He's going to get good numbers just because he gets so many touches. And I'm excited to see what happens. So I'm picking Rojo.
Brent, I considered another, and again, it's dark horse, wishful, whatever you say. I considered Shady McCoy simply because, we talk about the zone defense that they'll be facing, and I wonder if there's going to be a lot of dump offs, especially, if Scotty or Justin, whoever is out there, we don't have that Chris Godwin, Mike is covered. I wonder if there's going to be a lot of tosses to the running back. I think I saw a tweet from Greg Allman who pointed out, this was from 2018, but Brady threw to his running backs, Rex Burkhead and James White, for like 150 yards and 2 touchdowns or something like that. So I don't think that's outside the realm of possibilities. Now, those targets could go to Rojo if he's hot and on fire, but Shady is the quote unquote receiving back. So I wonder if he's going to see a lot of action.
Yeah, I like that pick. I think Rojo's a real smart pick. And what Corey said, I thought about that earlier in the week too. Like, if you take Scotty, if he plays, or anybody else, and run him up the hash and pull the cornerback deep enough, and then of course take the safety with him, and then have the outside receiver do like a 10-yard cross and clear it out, and then throw in that spot. it's going to be there all day long because the Chargers will not get beat deep. They will not do it. So they're going to give up the short pass. So whoever that ends up being could be OJ Howard, could be Gronk, could be Shady. Shady's probably, the odds-on favorite. Could be Keyshawn Vaughn. I think Rojo gets a few of those. I think that was sort of a game plan going into the Saints game, was to get Rojo on those screen passes. Brady threw one at his feet once and he caught it and fell down and got up, but still made the first down, but it could have went to the house. Then they come out of the second half and he fires it over his head. Then they try it the very next play and Mike holds. Like, they've got a screen package for Rojo, and we could see it show up in this game.
Could be. Well, guys, I like it. I'm excited. Buccaneers play on Sunday, and man, it's time for football. I'm excited. It's been a long week for me. I know it's been a long week for a lot of people, but football's back, and let's just say this is just what the doctor ordered. Corey, thank you so much for joining us this week, my friend. It's always good to get to talk to you. It's always good to get you on the show. Why don't you tell the folks out there where they can get in touch with you? They can find whatever you've got going on out there, and they can interact with you during games.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I really just consider myself just another fan at this point. I kind of always considered myself that. I am on Twitter at the Play Reaction, and honestly, that's all I do when it comes to Bucs is tweet through that handle. I keep the Play Reaction just because I'm still nostalgic to my YouTube channel. I've got a link to it in my bio if you guys want to check some of the old videos. Some of it's evergreen. I got a video up there on whether Gruden won with Dungy's team, and I've got one that says, hey, should we lose for a draft pick and stuff like that. I'm pretty proud of them, so check them out. But yeah, hit me up on Twitter. You don't have to slide into my DMs. That's fine. I just stay away from them, but you can at me if you want. And I love talking football. This is just a random plug. I also have my own podcast. Not many people know about it. If you are a fan of 80s and 90s pop culture, it's called the Pass Forward Podcast. I've been doing it for 5 years.
No, you have not.
Yeah.
I don't know how long now, Corey, and I have never heard of this show before.
What was your last episode about?
So we do 2 episodes a month, and the first one of each month is just talking about all the retro news. So there's lots of things that are always being rebooted and, rebranded. Yeah. So things coming back as TV shows and things coming back as movies and books and all that stuff. So there's always a ton of news. So we always do one of those a month. And then we do just kind of a random wild card show talking about our memories as kids of the 90s. So, and / a little bit of 80s. So
what's the name of this podcast?
The Pass Forward Podcast. It's me and 2 other guys that I used to work with, and we've been doing it for 5 years just for fun.
Wow.
Is it past as in P-A-S-T?
P-A-S-T.
Passed forward. All right,
Yeah.
I'll check it out.
Dude, that's
check it out.
Artwork you have there. I just subscribed. Yeah, you guys make sure you go over there, check that out. That's fun.
Yeah, the other 2 guys are graphic designers, so that's why the artwork is so pretty.
All right, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Ren.
Yes.
You know what to do. Tell the
Sure.
folks where to find you.
I feel bad for saying this, but I did slide into A-Dub's DMs and ask him, because they're open, by the way. That's the part I feel bad about saying. Anton Winfield Jr. has his DMs open on Twitter. Idiot. But I asked him, do you like sarsaparilla? And I explained why. And I said, do you like A-Dubs? And I explained, what's behind that one. Or, give me, something that you like, or they call you whatever. You already have one. What is it? Dead silence. Haven't heard from him.
Oh man, I was waiting.
Big story. And
Ghosted.
20.
And
Going for 20. 20J.
What? I don't even know what that means.
I'm just trying to come up with something. I don't know.
Okay.
Antoine, 20,
No, I don't.
Rubble.
People named Antoine. They're called. Never mind.
Okay, best place to find me. Corey, you're done. Best place to find me is on Twitter at Rendax, REN_DAXT. I'm always down to talk Buccaneers football. But if you're lost it, What do I say? What if if your take, yes, if your take, or you don't want to put out there on the Twitter sphere is too hot, please feel free to slide my DMs and we can talk Buccaneers football there as well too. And the reason I forgot, because I wanted to give a shout out to Corey. If you're listening to this, you're like, why would I want to go watch these old videos? And he said pretty proud of them. The production on these videos is top notch. Like they're outstanding.
Oh, thank you.
And just watching them, like it's just fun to watch them. Like don't even care about the content, just like the production value alone. You should just go take a peek at them. And since I didn't get to say this at the beginning and it didn't come up during the pod, I definitely wanted to get it out before we signed off and left. Corey, a big thank you for the 1,000 subscriptions, because you were the driving force to sort of get those last 30 or 40 in the bank. You unsolicited, you tweeted at us and said, hey, these guys are really close to 1,000 subscriptions, and I know what it means, and if you like Buccaneers football, go subscribe. And like 3 hours later, we hit the mark. So again, thank you very much.
I've got a confession to make. All of those are me. I just created fake accounts and just subscribed to all of them.
Don't care.
That's not true. Yeah, as a former YouTuber, I know exactly how important 1,000 subscriptions are. To a lot of people, it's probably an empty number, but YouTube likes it when you hit 1,000 because it kind of makes you legitimate in their eyes, and it opens up a lot of things that you can do more with your channel. So I knew you guys deserved it. And there's a few other YouTubers out there that cover the Bucs that are also close to it. I don't know if you guys want me to shout them out, but Buck What You Heard and Loose Cannons are almost there too. So if you guys, I'm a big supporter of fan created content because I used to be one, and I know how much passion is behind it and how much you guys really, really care, and how much work, unpaid work you put into it. And I think you deserve it. So I'm happy to push your content out there.
Well, thank you, Corey. We definitely appreciate that. Speaking of YouTube, you guys make sure you join us on YouTube or the PewterCast.live or Facebook or Twitter or Periscope or basically wherever you guys want to connect with us after the game live. Sunday, we will be doing our post-game show. And we got a fun guest who's going to be joining again, filling in for me because I will be out for that particular show. So you guys make sure you stay tuned and join in there. Ren, we'll talk about how all that works. But until next time, guys, I'm at Brent Allen Live across all the social media, the PewterCast across all the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all those things, the PewterCast at gmail.com if you guys want to email in. Remember, we may use your comments on an upcoming episode of the PewterCast. And until next time, guys, we'll catch you later as I get rid of these curtains behind me. Go Bucs.
It's going to be a bloodbath.